The roaring riff that opens the Genie and sets the tone for the entire record throws us back to the British R&B pyrotechnics of the previous decade, to those domineering sounds made by guitar heroes like Jeff Beck, Pete Townsend, Jimmy Page and others. Their role models, in return, were American R&B musicians like Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker and Bo Diddley, who created the electric blues sound of the 1950s and gave the blues a hard urban edge. These black men came over as individualists, caught in an epic struggle against the harsh realities of the big city, with nothing but an electric guitar on their side. But through their music, they created their own fantasy world, in which they lived life on a higher intensity level than other people, and had omnipotent manly powers that could take on anything. It was this fantasy that excited a generation of British working-class boys, resulting in the rise of a rebellious, individualistic attitude that permeated the pop sound of mid-60s. Now, some years later, Bowie taps into that spirit to create his own mythic urban hero. The name of the record hints at another influence. Any individualistic approach, at the time, was seen through the prism provided by French existentialism, and the greatest existentialist hero was Jean Genet. Genet was an orphan who in early childhood was already tagged as a delinquent by the system, and when he grew up, he decided to live out this identity to the fullest, consciously alienating himself from society, and making an art of being a criminal, a sexual deviant, and a sinner. Eventually, he turned his aesthetic talent into actual art, making poetry out of crime, and creating a reverse morality to that of the straight world. In his art, he claimed that it is actually he, the outlaw, who is living an authentic existence, unbound by any external code, while those who are part of society are living in a fake world. This message struck a chord in many, and Bowie, who also presented himself in his art as an alien, could naturally find some affinities. Change 2 letters in Jean Genet's name, and you get the Genie. But for Bowie, the true model for an outsider existence came not from France but from the Wild West, from the inner city jungles of America. The model for the Genie, he confided on occasions, was Iggy Pop, the wild rocker from Detroit. In Iggy, Bowie found someone who took rock and roll rebelliousness a step further than the 60s, with music that was like free-form jazz played on electric guitars, and a stage act that pulled out all stops. With his outrageous stage name and act, Iggy was one of the inspirations for Bowie's Ziggy, and when Ziggy had gone on tour in America, in late 1972, the first song he wrote had Iggy in mind.
Small Genie snuck off to the city, strung out on lasers and slashback blazers, and ate all your razors while pulling the waiters, talking about Monroe and walking on Snow White. New York's a go-go and everything tastes nice. Poor little Greenie. Ooh. Get back on it.
We are in the big city here, and we even know which one it is, New York City. But the Genie isn't originally from the city. He came from outside and tries to blend in. The chain of flashing images that Bowie spews doesn't make much sense, but it still works, showing a fascination with the dazzling temptations of the metropolitan on the one hand, and an inability to make sense of it all on the other. So the Genie, we gather, doesn't really fit in the city, and would be better off going back home. But who is he, and where is he from? It's the line "poor little Greenie" that gives it away. A Greenie is a Martian, and the Martian, of course, is Ziggy. Ziggy is the one who talked about Monroe and other Hollywood superstars, and tried to be like them. But the attempts of the Martian to blend in with the Earthlings, it seems, didn't really work. His otherness finds ways to display itself, like when he eats razors, or when he bites on the neon, as we later see. He just doesn't belong.
Genie lives on his back. The Genie loves chimney stacks. He's outrageous, he screams and he falls. The Genie
chorus is more cheerful. Here the Genie comes over as heroic, and his outrageous otherness is a cause for celebration. The first two lines are ambiguous. That he lives on his back suggests sexual promiscuity, and the chimney stacks could then be a phallic euphemism, putting a gay twist on it. Or it could suggest that he's homeless, and sleeps in other people's chimneys. At any rate, the fact that he doesn't belong is taken as a good thing here, and is regarded as freedom.
Sits like a man, but he smiles like a reptile. She love him, but just for a short while. She'll scratch in the sand, won't let go of his hand. He says he's a beautician, sells you nutrition, keeps all your dead hair for making up underwear. Poor little greenie.
I think the Genie is an actual alien. He isn't human, as we learn from lines like he sits like a man, and when he smiles, he reveals himself to be of reptilian nature. Bowie then returns to a recurring theme in his work, as the Genie discovers the fleeting nature of love and relationships, and the fact that a city can offer nothing that is long-lasting. He acknowledges it by using a symbol of fleetness, dead hair, to make his underwear, and probably sees this as making art out of his life, fancying himself an aesthete, or beautician, like Genie. But actually, it serves more to display his dire financial state.
So simple-minded, he can't drive his module. He bites on the neon and sleeps in a capsule. Loves to belong. Loves to belong.
More of the same, strengthening the impression that we are dealing with an extraterrestrial. But there's another layer here, I believe. He also represents Bowie himself, someone who presents himself as a Martian that comes to take over the big city, when he is actually just a simple boy from Bromley. With Ziggy Stardust, Bowie tried to create a fantasy that was bigger than anything R&B or rock and roll attempted before, putting together Iggy, Genie, Nietzsche, and many other dream weavers to construct the ultimate hero, someone who could actually stand up to the urban world and come out victorious. But when he met the urban reality of America, he suddenly felt that he has gone in way over his head, and that he is actually nothing but a simple-minded bloke who doesn't belong here. If Iggy Pop is indeed the model for the Genie, it is probably because he presented Bowie with a mirror image of himself, a suburban kid who became a rock star and acts like he's on top of the world, when his life is actually spiraling out of control. With the Genie, Bowie is still celebrating the joys and freedoms that Ziggy brought him, but also starts to see the downsides. On the one hand, we hear echoes of Chuck Berry's Go Johnny Go Go Go, extending the myth of rock and roll freedom. On the other hand, it has a sense of losing touch with the world. In that, it points to Bowie's next identity, who will try to capture the Genie in his lamp, and make records that will reflect and deal with the situation he just unfolded.